I'd say go for it. I would say you do physics not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Ask around your school. Most people are taking classes when you have the option to take one class or another. Most people, from what I've seen, are taking classes that they have judged to be easy so that they could get a high grade.
Biggest mistake.
So that they can graduate with a high GPA. Because the system of education rewards high GPAs, but the system of life rewards tenacity, rewards your urge to tackle something you've never seen before and succeed, and even if you don't succeed, to have in that tenacity, to have the energy to go back and try it again. Knowing how to fail. These are things that the most successful people have going for them. So I would say take classes because they're hard, not because they're easy. And for every hard thing you accomplish, you ascend a pyramid. And every next rung that you ascend, you look around and there are fewer people at that level. That's what it means to do something that's hard. Fewer people can do it. That's what President Kennedy said on the way to the moon. We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Only by doing hard things do you ever distinguish yourself from others around you so that an employer can say, hey, look what you've done. Look what you've accomplished. I want some of that.
It's really hard to sell kids on math and science. It's really easy to sell kids on cigarettes. Would it help if we made science illegal?
There's another way to make science interesting for people. First of all, we are born scientists. When we're born, we wonder what's out there. We begin to wonder about the sun, life, the stars, what makes the oceans, the weather. We're born scientists. And then something happens. When we hit the danger years of junior high school and high school, that's when it's literally crushed out of us.
Those are the worst.
Every little flower of curiosity, said Einstein, is crushed by society itself. Because we have to learn all these facts, figures, memorization, we think that memorization is science. And that's not true at all. My daughter had to take the Regents exam once, and she had to memorize all these facts and figures about minerals, crystals for a geology exam. Nowhere did I see the true driving force of geology, which is continental drift. That's the organizing principle for all of geology. And yet the exam was memorizing all the names of the crystals and the minerals. And then later she comes up to me and says, Daddy, why would anyone want to become a scientist? That was the most humiliating event in my entire life. I felt like taking that book and ripping it apart, because that exam was crushing curiosity right out of the next generation. And then we wonder, hey, how come people are not more interested in science? Duh.
I have a hypothesis. I didn't do the experiment, but it's not good enough to only be smart at something or to score high on an exam. At some point, you have to step away from the exam and say, I have a new thought that no one has had before. And it's not a thought that you told me to regurgitate on this exam that you just wrote, because it's a thought that no one has had before. And how do you get those thoughts? You get those in irreverent cultures. Possibly that has delayed our collapse because it is out of the environment of not regurgitating what someone else has learned in their lifetime that allows you to make a discovery that no one else has made before.
You think there are too many tests? We give kids too many tests?
I think we put too much emphasis on what the meaning of the test is. I test people. It's a way to find out what you know. But don't then say, if you don't know this, therefore the rest of your life is screwed. No, because go find people who are successful in this world. Find, talk show hosts and comedians and novelists and attorneys, and go get the politicians. Put them in a room and say, how many here got straight A's throughout school? None of them are going to raise their hands. By the way, throw in inventors. Throw in all these people. None of them are going to raise their hand. Okay? So Bill Gates dropped out of college. Michael Dell dropped out of college. Those people are not, the success of those people is not measured by how they performed on the exam that you wrote as professor, because they're thinking in ways that you have yet to think, because they're inventing. That the school system is provided for you by the exams written by people who are trained in another generation.
First of all, let me say that science is the engine of prosperity. From steam power to electricity to the laser to the transistor to the computer.
That's not true.
We're
That's
talking
technology.
about. Hey,
Technology.
can I have my? Sure. You had your say. Let me have my say.
Yes.
However, the information revolution has a weakness, and the weakness is precisely the educational system. The United States has the worst educational system known to science. Our graduates compete regularly at the level of third world countries. So how come the scientific establishment of the United States doesn't collapse? If we're producing a generation of dummies, if the stupid index of America keeps rising every year, just watch network television and reality shows, right? How come the scientific establishment of the United States doesn't collapse? Let me tell you something. Some of you may not know this. America has a secret weapon. That secret weapon is the H-1B. Without the H-1B, the scientific establishment of this country would collapse. Forget about Google. Forget about Silicon Valley. There would be no Silicon Valley without the H-1B. And you know what the H-1B is? It's the genius visa, okay? You realize that in the United States, 50% of all PhD candidates are foreign-born. At my system, one of the biggest in the United States, 100% of the PhD candidates are foreign-born. The United States is a magnet sucking up all the brains of the world, but now the brains are going back. Right. They're going back to China. They're going back to India. And people are saying, oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in India now. Oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in China. Duh. Where did it come from? It came from the United States. So don't tell me that science isn't the engine of prosperity. You remove the H-1B visa and you collapse the economy. In Wall Street Journal, editorialized against a congressman who wanted to ban the H-1B, saying they'll take jobs away from the American people. The Wall Street Journal said, look, there are no Americans who can take these jobs. These are at the highest level of high technology. They don't take away jobs from Americans. They create entire industries. And so that's why we have an Achilles heel, and that's the educational system. And again, sociology majors are not necessarily going to be the ones determining the future of Silicon Valley, but physicists, engineers. We need more of them, not less.
The irony is, I agree with the immigration issues, what you're saying. And I'm at a school, of course, and Peter's a graduate of a school where indeed immigration.
Your school wouldn't exist without the H-1B.
Of course, but I'm not.
We've got to get back to the future of business.
But hold on a second. I'm not. No. I'm not arguing against an H-1B. I completely agree with this issue, and the point on the future of business that he's making, which is very, very important, is the nature of human capital. What is misunderstood here is, again, how poorly run schools are. MIT is a notable exception in this regard. His school is not, because what happens is they run in these introductory science and engineering classes at Illinois and Wisconsin and Michigan. They run freshman and sophomore years as flunk-out operations. They do it they run it as a boot camp, and then people are surprised that people don't take science, that they don't take the STEM courses. The point that I'm trying to make, which I think is an important one in this regard, is that the way educational systems are set up right now is that we have distorted incentives that undermine the ability for America to have a homegrown science and technology system. Immigration is a wonderful child of immigration.
I want to move this just to say, I want to move this from an American conversation to a global conversation. It is a global economy and so on. I mean, obviously, to those of us who are Americans, this matters hugely politically, but as we talk about the future of business, one pretty clear thing is that it's going to be increasingly borderless. And one of the questions we sort of want to ask is, if you're wearing your CEO hat, some of these implications might be where you're going to put your headquarters. Are you going to put your headquarters in Bangalore or in Buenos Aires or in Silicon Valley? You've got a lot of issues around that. But I'd like to move it to that. Peter, you had your hand up first, and I know you want to comment on this, and then I want to start asking about some questions about where the big industries will be in the future. But yeah.
So to bring this back to the focus on SAP and mobility and cloud, the fact of the matter is that the rate of changing is increasing. The rate of change is increasing, period. And we're working into a day and age where the ability for, again, an individual or a small team to innovate and build a company is greater than ever before. The cloud and mobile computing, 3D printing, AI-enabled capabilities are going to allow for the birth of extraordinary industries. And the fact of the matter is, there is no industry that's safe. Medicine, I just got finished speaking to a group of 500 medical CEOs. Over the next 10 years, medicine is going to be completely redefined. And the fact of the matter is that when regulations are holding an industry back, like it is in medicine, it simply means it's going to be redefined in a different country. There are no boundaries anymore. Companies are multinational, individuals are multinational, ideas go across the globe at the speed of light, and we're going to see a rate of change that is not stopped by regulation, especially when governments can no longer regulate at the speed of change that's going on right now.